Hey Guitar Hacks, welcome to Guitar Hack. This will be episode 3. It's holiday time, so hope you're all having a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Just wanted to do a lesson, something about pentatonics. Most of you probably already know your pentatonic shapes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe making the most of some of those shapes, trying to get some mileage out of it. There's certain shapes that people kind of dwell on because there's a lot of licks in there, but there's other shapes that are like a little less popular, but you can get some pretty good mileage out of all the shapes with just filling in a couple of notes here and there. With the pentatonics, pentatonic means there's only 5 notes. Now there's some really fantastic guitar players that can get a lot of mileage out of those 5 notes. I'm not one of them. I have to throw in some extra notes, and I'll show you some of the extra notes. You can throw in some passing notes, some blue notes, things that kind of fill it in a little bit more and maybe make it a little bit more tonally interesting. I'm going to do this in A because A, it's kind of nice to show you. It's easy to show all the way up the fretboard. You can do this, of course, in any key. But in A, the 5 pentatonic shapes, which you probably already know, the first one starts down here. So that's the first one, and the second one, the real popular one, the box, the one that everybody uses, is this one here. And then the one above that. And the last one. So this one up here on the 12th fret and one at the 5th fret, that's kind of where everybody spends most of their time. But what I want to show you is how to get some mileage out of this first one that I showed you, which is 2-4, 2-4, 1-4, 1-4, 2-4, 2-4. Okay, by adding a bunch of little passing notes and some techniques, hammer-ons, pull-offs, trills, some bends. You can play quite a few licks in this block before sliding up into the main one that everybody likes to play. Okay, so I'm going to do a little thing here with my looper pedal. I'm going to play just a 1-4-5 in the key of A. 1-4-5 meaning the 1 is the first or the root chord, which is A. 4 is the 4th chord, which is D. 5 is the 5th chord, which is E. Later on, I'll get into my limited in theory knowledge and explain 1-4-5 and what works and what doesn't. But right now, I'm straight minor pentatonics in A over an A progression. So, just going to record something here real quick. Here's my backing track in A, and I'm going to play all licks out of this first position. So basically, some of the things I was incorporating there, I lost it there a little bit at the end. I don't know if you noticed that, but anyway, so that's the shape. So some of the notes that I was incorporating there that were extra were chromatic things. So for example, those 4 notes there, what I incorporate a lot, and it sounds really good, and it's a blues note, a little chromatic thing, is on the B string, instead of 1, 2, 4, if you add that middle note there, that's actually a blue note, and it's a nice passing tone. You can't sit on that, but anyway, you can kind of use that in your runs. Actually, you can do a lot of chromatic stuff. You can go, if you really want to go heavy chromatic, you can go do the same thing on the high E string. So you can go, and you can do some crazy bends as well on the B string. And also on the G string, bending that up, a full tone takes you to this note. And this note always sounds good, which is the A string on the, the A note on the G string, because that is the root. So one thing too, when you're playing these things, you got to be aware of where the roots are, because they're good ending points for phrases, and you can kind of sit there and run those notes for a while. So in A, that's your root note there, 5th fret. That's another root note there on the G string, and of course on the high E. The other chromatic thing I do quite often is on the same box down here, you have on the 2-4 up here. So what I'll do is I'll do a chromatic thing running up from the G to the A. Okay. And then the other thing you can do as well is, you know, I notice I'm doing a lot of hammer-ons, pull-offs, all these different techniques. You know, really fill in the playing and kind of make it a little more interesting. So, you know, there's legato stuff you can do. Legato basically means you're just not picking notes, right? Oops, almost went into an extra note there that shouldn't be there. I was getting into the full scale. I rarely strictly only play pentatonics. I throw in the full 8-note scale notes in there once in a while, really quick. Because where this scale comes from, and I'll get more into this later, this full scale, the full 8th-note scale that the 5 notes come out of, this is the full scale. It would be this. Okay, so I find myself automatically going to some of those notes, but sticking strictly pentatonic with chromatics, if I played all those chromatic notes inside of that box, I would have, instead of this, I have this. Okay, so you can do some crazy. You can go nuts on that, but again, mixing up techniques, putting in those, all those. A little bit of bends here and there. The D note is nice to bend. The C note, little micro bend on the C. You know, all nice things to do. And if you get, you know, practice that, just force yourself to stay in that position. through a full progression, an A progression, it kind of forces yourself to get some ideas and just make the most out of it. And this again is not, most players, they'll only use this as a reason to get up to the this point. But I mean, you can sit here quite a lot and get a lot of mileage out of this scale here as well. Okay. Eventually I'll go through some of the rest of the pentatonics, some other ideas and things, but as a player, sometimes when I practice, it's all I'll do. I'll just sit on one pattern, solo along with one pattern, and just try to get the most out of that one pattern. Okay, I hope that helps you out. Let's keep this guitar hack community alive. I appreciate any comments, anything that you might say, any links that you have, other suggestions or other lessons for people. It's all about helping each other out and helping us all to become better guitar players. Again, I'm not a professional. I am literally just a hack. I just play for fun. That's what guitar is all about. It's just having a good time. Okay, take care, everybody. Hope you had a great holiday, and please leave your comments below. Take care.